Under GST, the department is vested with significant powers ranging from investigation to search and seizure. But what we want to understand is what triggers these search and seizure proceedings. And to help us understand this better, we have with us CA Yash Dhadda, Managing Partner at Dhadda and Company. Welcome, sir.
Thanks, Shefali.
So to begin with, what typically triggers search, seizure or inspection under GST?
So, Shefali, under GST, as we all know, that the first process is that we file returns. Then whether those returns are proper in terms of the circumference of the law, there are three ways through which department can question me. One is a scrutiny of the returns which they do, so there is a separate procedure for it. Second is that they can do the audit of my books of account, so there is a separate procedure for it. Now, if let's say government or department understands that these two are insufficient in respect of a taxpayer or in respect of a transaction, and they have to dig out more, and the possibility is not there to go through books of account, then there is a separate procedure prescribed in the three sections 67, 68, 69, and then followed up by summons, through which they can do inspection, search or seizure. So the trigger is there has to be a reason to believe at the government's part to understand that there is something which has been unearthed, there is something which has not been told, and they want to find it out in terms of whether the proper tax has been paid or not. So the trigger is there is a reason to believe, and there is a procedure given in scrutiny and audit is insufficient to find that out.
As you mentioned that there has to be a reason to believe. So can you tell us listeners that what reason to believe mean under law, under tax law?
Right. So reason to believe, typically it cannot be first, it cannot be an assumption. As a tax officer, I cannot assume that probably you might have not explained a transaction to me in your returns, and basis that I go into inspection, search or seizure. It cannot be like this. Okay. There are multiple judgments of the courts which very clearly say that it has to be tangible, it has to be objective, and the person who is sanctioning this inspection or search, he has to be very clear and he has to bring this on a paper while giving an authorization. So reason to believe has to be very clear understanding as to why they are proceeding with this. Okay. Do not confuse this that there has to be availability of an evidence at the time of reason to believe. Okay. The availability of evidence may not be there at the time, but there is a concrete understanding basis which I am going forward, but it should not be presumptive.
Can a taxpayer ask the department that what is that reason to believe, like at any point of time before the search, during the search or after the search, can the taxpayer know that what was that reason to believe which triggered this whole inspection?
During the course of search, no.
Okay.
Post search, yes, I can ask for it, I can question it, and I can use this as one of my reasons for defense when I will answer to whatever has been found out during the search proceedings, or if there is, let's say there is any demand of tax, interest or penalty on me. At that point of time, if I want to challenge that inspection or search, then I can ask for it. So the answer is not at the time of search. I cannot tell the officer that while you are entering my premise, give me the reason to believe why have you come here. Okay. But post that, if I am unsure as to what was the reason for it and I want to challenge that, then I can ask for this. So generally when we challenge a search in a court proceedings, at that point of time we do this. Okay. Or when we reply to a show cause notice, at that point of time we do it. The practical advice always is that post that proceeding of search or inspection, whatever has happened, write a letter to the department, ask the question, document this and use this at a later point of time.
As a defense.
Yes.
Follow-up question to this is, can a taxpayer ask for those documents or evidences which was basis for the department to initiate the inspection? I can ask for reason to believe, right? But can I also ask for those documents which was the base for their inspection?
So the answer is, it is partially there in your previous question. Because at the time of search I cannot ask for reason to believe, so clearly I cannot ask for those material evidences or reasons for which they have basically initiated this action. Now what happens in this procedure, once a search is concluded, then they would allege or they would tell me that these are certain transactions on which I have not paid tax, or let's say I have claimed a wrong benefit. So that leads to another procedure after search or an inspection. We call it as an adjudication procedure, where there is a notice. At the time when department is giving a notice to me, at that point of time they have to disclose the material evidences basis which they are asking this question. So at that point they can give me those material information which they have available with them, if they have proceeded on that reason to believe.
So the law distinguishes between inspection and search. If you can tell our listeners what is the difference between the two. Also, are these two activities sequential or independent of each other, or can one convert into the other? So what exactly is the difference between search and inspection?
Correct. So in a layman's understanding, generally what we say, that there is a tax authority which is at my doorstep.
Right.
And at that point of time, you cannot expect that layman to understand whether it's an inspection authorization or it's a search authorization. But both of them have different powers, both of them have different areas, and both of them have different jurisdictions. First, in an inspection, it is little less formal. Inspection, again the trigger has to be a reason to believe.
Okay.
And there has to be an officer, we call it as a joint commissioner. So the joint commissioner has to authorize his subordinate officer, or he can himself decide that he wants to visit a particular taxpayer business premises, and there he can inspect on the basis of that reason to believe that there is some tax which has not been paid. But during the course of investigation or inspection, they cannot seize any document. Number one. Number two, they cannot go to a non-business premise. So like for example, during the course of inspection, they cannot go to my residential premises.
Got it.
They cannot take away my electronic records. They cannot take away my documents. They cannot obviously take away cash or anything else which they have found during my premises. They cannot break open the locks. They cannot break open any document which they believe is secreted. All of those powers are not there in case of an inspection. Okay. Search on the other hand is wider. Again, the trigger has to be a reason to believe. Same officer, joint commissioner, but then he has to authorize for a search operation. In case of a search operation, department can come to my business premise, they can come to my residential premise, and they can come to any other premise where they believe that some document, some information, some goods have been secreted. So if they believe that they have been secreted, they can go to those premises. So it need not be my business premise which is registered. Now once they do that and they find that, then comes the next part of that search, which is called as a seizure. If they believe that all of these are material evidences basis which they'll be able to actually find out if taxpayer has evaded any tax, then in that case they can seize all those documents or things or goods whatever they have found out. But that cannot happen in case of an inspection. Now third, which you asked, that whether they are follow-up, both of them are absolutely independent of each other. It is not necessary that first there has to be an inspection and then only it can be a search. But an inspection can be converted into a search. Obviously, a search will not be converted into an inspection. When I have power which are of a broader hemisphere, obviously that would not be restricted. But if during the course of inspection, revenue identifies that there is a possibility that something has been secreted, then by seeking a permission they can convert that inspection into a search. So both of them are otherwise independent.
Coming to the conduct of search, so my question is, can the authorities, can they just walk into my premises or at any point of time, or they are allowed only to enter the premises during the working hours, or if let's say the premises are locked, can they break open the premise? Like you said earlier that they can break open. Now that's clear that they cannot do that in case of inspection, but in search, yes, they can do that. What other things that they can do?
So again, can they just walk in? No, they cannot walk in without an authorization. So there is an important document which is called as INS-01. Whenever they are entering in, the first document which they have to show to me is called as an INS-01, which is called as a search warrant. And without taking my acknowledgement on it, they cannot enter into my premises. So that's the first thing which, as a business owner or as a business person, I should be aware of, that if any GST officer is at my premise and he is saying that they are for a search, there has to be an INS-01 which will have a search authorization. That's point number one. Number two, then subsequently after doing that, it is not necessary that they would always come at the business hours. There is no restriction in the GST law that they have to come during the business hours only. They can come early morning also, they can come late evening also, and they can continue that operation till the time they reach to a finality according to their understanding of it. Okay. And third, whatever they do, it's very important that they document it in an important document which is called as an Panchnama. So in that Panchnama, they will document whatever has been done, the procedure which is given in the law, that has been followed or not. So these are three things that are predominantly as how that course of search is being done is documented.
What I understand from Panchnama is that it has to be documented, but in presence of independent witnesses who are called Panch. So if you can explain who Panch are and who are these people, like are they from the department or they're from the taxpayer side? Who are these people?
No, as you said, they are independent witness. So clearly they cannot be from department.
Okay.
They have to be independent. They have to be at least two panchas, which we call them as independent witness, who are just overseeing the whole proceedings which are taking place, whether they are fair, whether they are justified, and there is no coercion, there is no undue pressure has happened, and whatever is being done, that is being documented from their eyes. So that's what Panchnama is, only recording of the serial of events which have happened ever since the search started till the time the search concluded. So it is only recording of the factual events which have happened during that period of time at that particular premise. So if let's say a search party is there at 4 premises, there have to be 4 different Panchnamas. There have to be 4 different witnesses, unless let's say the search party is moving from one place to another and the panchas are also moving with them. Is it necessary that panchas have to be from a taxpayer side or from a department side? The answer is anybody can bring them in where both the parties are in congruence that yes, these are independent witnesses and they belong to that locality. So that's again a very important thing, that panchas generally have to be from that locality only. It cannot happen that if let's say a team is coming from a far distant, let's say from a different city, then the panchas are also coming from those particular cities. Then it clearly means that panchas have been brought by by an impacted party. So Panchnama is nothing else but recording the events which is taking place, and that's where as a taxpayer or as a business person, whatever I want to get, I want the department to record it. Panchnama is that document where I can insist that you please record this as a factual event which has taken place.
And once the proceedings are concluded, can I as a taxpayer ask for those Panchnamas?
Yeah, no, not only you can ask for it, but it is actually a right and revenue has to give you Panchnama. If they are not giving you Panchnama at the time of conclusion of the search, then in that case, if subsequently it is given to you, you can always raise a question whatever is mentioned in that Panchnama. Okay. So Panchnama as a document has to be made available to the person on whom the search or the inspection procedure has been carried out, and it has to be given to them then and there.
Who is expected to be available at the premises when the department comes? Let's say if the owners are not available or their key managing people are not available, can they still proceed with the search?
Your question again has 2 parts. One is who is expected. Well, the practical understanding would always be that one should not avoid reaching to the business premises if one is aware that there is some departmental proceeding is happening at my business premise, be it a search or an inspection, and I am that capable person who can answer to the relevant question or the queries which they are raising. But that does not mean that revenue can force that the owner of the business, the managing director of the business, the CFO of the business has to be present during the search proceedings. So these are two separate aspects, number one. Number two, if let's say due to some reason the top management is not available, or let's say then the understanding is there is some authorized person who understands transaction relating to GST far better as compared to the top management, then his presence would obviously be well appreciated both by the revenue side of it and also from the management side of the transaction. Third, if let's say they are also not available and some employee is available, then still the search can continue. It would not happen that just because some responsible person is not there who can explain GST related transaction, the search would abate at that point of time. It will not stop. Happen. Fourth, if let's say that employee is also not available, still in that case, because in case of a search, there is a power to break open the lock and they can actually enter the premises, then they can actually go to the neighbors, record in the Panchnama that nobody was available in the premises, and in their presence they can break open the law. So the answer is search would not stop if somebody is there or somebody is not there. But practically from a business point of view, it is always advised that one should not avoid sending a person who understands GST related questions to be answered in relation to that particular business. That will actually facilitate the proceedings, that will ensure that proceedings are be conducted in right manner, and it will help that business in the times to come when they will defend whatever defense they have to bring against the department's questions.
Okay, this is a very important question from a taxpayer's point of view. Can a taxpayer call their chartered accountant or advocate during the search proceedings? Are they allowed to do that? Can somebody represent the taxpayer in front of the authorities?
There is no restriction in the law which says that no, you are not allowed to bring your legal counsel. Okay. However, legal counsel who is a third party, who is not part of the organization, the purpose of actually bringing them in, it can be multifold. One is they're observing that procedures which are there in the law have been fairly followed or not, number one. Number two, to advise a taxpayer what they should really answer, again within the periphery of the law. That's the second part of it. And third, to actually assess the revenue in terms of explaining the transactions. If let's say at the taxpayer side of it, there is somebody who cannot explain the complex GST related transactions. So the answer is, again, department cannot say that they will not allow it, but at the same time that consultant or a taxpayer or an advocate is more of a person who is overseeing the procedure of the law that has been followed or not, rather than actually taking part in the proceeding as if they are part of the business. So that's the difference.
Okay, but yes, the taxpayer can
call they can call
advocates or chartered accountants.
The question can actually be that whether you should call them or not. The answer is,
what would you advise?
The answer is, again, it depends. Why are you calling them? If you are confident to answer your questions which they are asking, because generally what happens is when a search starts, for initial few hours you are not aware as to what is the reason for which they are here, because at that point of time they are only seeking the information. So only once some concrete understanding is there as to what is the precise question against you, what is the precise allegation against you, professional advice would be at that point of time you bring in a third person. Otherwise, role of a consultant or an advocate or a chartered accountant would really come in post the search has taken.
So you said earlier that documents and devices can be seized. What usually happens is, we've also seen that the department takes away the phones and laptops and electronic devices, all these things. My question is, can they do that? And what are the other things that can be seized?
So yes, as we said, in case of a search proceeding, if they have a reason to believe that there is some information which is secreted in it, which is related to the GST related search proceedings, then yes, obviously they can do that. Can they actually take away personal phones? Well, law is not very well documented, but because there is a terminology used in the law which is as things. So things has a wide amplitude, and there is a possible reason to say that they can take away personal phones and laptops also in their seizure, subject to that they verify this and then they return it once the search proceedings are concluded. So the answer is yes, they can take both of those things.
Now that they can take it, how do we get it back?
In respect of goods, there is a specific provision. You can provisionally get them released.
Okay.
So there is a provision in the law 67(6) which says that by filing a bond or a security, you can actually get a provisional release of the goods. So in respect of goods, there is a procedure prescribed. In respect of electronic devices and information which is there, generally once the search is concluded, then only all these things are returned.
Okay.
So again, like we refer to INS 1 for an authorization of search. When these documents or things are taken, then they give one more document which is called as INS 02. INS 02 is actually an acknowledgement that these are all the goods, things, documents which we are taking with us.
Okay.
In case they are bulky, or let's say there are goods which cannot be moved, then there is a prohibition order, which is nothing else but they are saying these are your goods lying at your premise, and we are giving you a document and restricting you that you do not move them from this premises till the time we do not give you another order to use those goods. So that's either a prohibition order or a seizure order. Goods, you can get them provisionally released by following a procedure. Other things, generally when the investigation is concluded, then they are returned back.
Let's say if department finds property documents or cash or documents which are not mine, they are belonging to somebody else, can they take away all these things?
It's a multi-layered question.
Yeah.
Cash we'll deal in a while. Apart from that, if you are saying that in my premises during the course of my search, if let's say documents of some other party are found, can they also be seized? Unfortunately, the answer is yes, because they say anything which they find in that particular premises. So in order to investigate whether there is any GST related evasion or a transaction non-disclosure is there or not, they can take that away, and basis that they can carry the investigation against a third person also. So yes, they can take them away. That's precisely in respect of goods and documents and electronic devices. In respect of cash, the situation is a little different. Interestingly, cash, because it's legal tender and currency, it does not fall within the meaning of goods. It does not fall within the meaning of things also.
Okay.
And that's where across India there is a widespread confusion whether cash can be seized during the course of investigation or a search or not. There are multiple high courts which have taken a view that cash cannot be seized during course of a GST search. It's unlike PMLA. Under PMLA, there is a specific provision which allows that you can actually seize the cash. But in GST, there is no clarity on this. There are some courts which have taken a contrary view. The matter is there pending in the Supreme Court. So as of now, over the period of time, because all these instances have increased, the legal understanding is cash cannot be seized.
So earlier we discussed about panchnamas, but we also know that during the proceedings, the department takes statement of the taxpayers. Is taking statement mandatory?
So now we are jumping to another section, which is section 70. Statement is generally being taken by taking powers from section 70, where again revenue has a reason to believe that they want attendance of a specific person in respect of a transaction, and they want to record their statements, and then they invoke section 70. Generally during the course of a search proceeding, they will invoke 70, give a summon to a concerned person about whom they understand that he has relevant information and knowledge about GST related transactions, and then they would record the statement. If a summon is issued to me and I am available at the business premises, yes, they would take my statement. What I am supposed to say in my statement, that's completely my prerogative. That is something which revenue obviously cannot force me to do. But yes, they can take my statement. They can take my statement after search also by issuing a summon to me.
Okay.
So the compliance of summon, how do I have to do it? That again is a separate chapter altogether. But yes, during the course of search, they can take my statement by giving me a summon. But again, this gives another trigger point to note that while they are taking my statement, they have to first give me a summon, and that summon has to be available with me. If any statement given by me or on my statement taken by them without summon, that's not correct. That's not in accordance with provisions of law.
Okay.
And that can be challenged at a later stage.
We have seen this, that when the department comes, it's a lot of pressure on the client and the taxpayers. So usually what happens is they give wrong statements under pressure or under coercion or whatever the reason is. Simply maybe because of anxiety, they give wrong statements, and then eventually they realize that the statement were wrong, or maybe figures were wrong, or some wrong information was given. Now, how does a taxpayer undo this situation?
Right. So yes, you rightly mentioned it's a situation which is day in day out we see this. First thing, as a taxpayer, which we should always take care is, when I am tendering a statement, I should always ask copy of my statement.
Okay.
In majority of the cases, the copy of the statement is not given with an understanding by the revenue that if the same is given to me, that will hamper or that will affect the investigation proceedings. So they deny doing that. Still, I should make it a point that once I have tendered my statement, I make it a point that I request for copy of the statement in writing to the respective team which has taken my statement. That's one. Second, now once the statement is done, the search is over, and then when I recall and I understand there are some parts of the statement which probably would have gone against me or which I did not intend to say, then I should write a retraction letter. Okay. That retraction letter is nothing else but where I am voluntarily writing to that same team that the contents of my statement which I had given, I am not sure about them, and I might have given them under anxiety, or there are some factual information which probably could have been given wrongly by me due to non-availability of information at that point of time with me, and hence I request you that you should not rely on that statement, and I offer myself again to give the statement, which is called as retraction.
Okay.
The important point for retraction to note is that retraction has to be given at the earliest possible time when it is available. So generally it is advised that when you want to really give the retraction, you should give them within 24 hours to 48 hours.
Okay.
But that's theoretical. Why theoretical? Because I will not have copy of my statement. They have not given me copy of my statement. I will have copy of my statement when department will conclude the proceedings and they will issue a notice to me. Along with that notice, they will give me copy of my statement. Okay. So that is also the fastest or most precise available opportunity where actually I should write a retraction letter. So the answer is, seek a copy of your statement, wait if department gives you copy. If you are sure that you have said something which you did not intend to say, write retraction then and there, else wait for the copy of the statement and then write a retraction. By this way, you will be able to actually undo it. Undo not instantly, but during the course of again answering to that particular notice.
So we've noticed that what taxpayer usually do is they don't even file for the retraction, and they let go the wrong statements that they've given.
Though it is not necessary that even if I've given a wrong statement, that would believe that if something which I've not done, still that would become true. No, that's not, it is not like this. Any demand of tax cannot be confirmed against me merely based on a statement. But if that statement is corroborated by necessary evidences, then that goes against me.
Okay.
But obviously, by saying something wrong, why would I want to make the situation more complex and grave for me?
Right.
So retraction has to be given, but the timing has to be seen according to what do I remember and at what point of time statement is available with me.
During the search proceedings, like while they're concluding, the department identifies, let's say, a liability of 1 crore. So, but the taxpayer does not agree to it. But also there is pressure on the taxpayer to deposit the money then and there through DRC. Do you think the taxpayer should pay the money then and there, or choose not to pay?
What I think obviously they should not pay. Practically what you said is right, because if let's say if I am giving a wrong statement under pressure, then obviously there is going to be one more part of it, that is, now that I have tendered a wrong statement, I should pay certain amount also as a deposit. There are clear instructions from government. There is a document which has been issued in form of an instruction to the investigating officers also, that you should not force the taxpayer during the course of search to make payment of tax then and there only.
Okay.
In fact, there have been judgments from the court which says that if let's say taxpayer is making a payment of tax at odd times, or let's say late night or early morning, then it should be treated as if that payment has been made under pressure, and that amount should be returned back. So that's from the government side of it, what they have seen. Practically, if let's say even if I have proceeded to buy mental peace some payment which I have made and subsequently I realize that I was not supposed to pay that, then immediately again I should raise my objection once the search is over, write a letter to the department, then lodge a necessary, you may call it a complaint letter or a grievance letter before the higher authority, generally the commissioner, and then also file a refund application under section 54. If let's say the quantum which is there or the procedure of the law of the search which was followed was absolutely, according to me, not legal, then I can consider going to High Court and filing a writ in the respective High Court. But that's only in case of an extreme cases. Otherwise, the other suggestions which are given that will help the taxpayer while fighting the matter. Obviously, amount would remain as a deposit till the time the conclusion is not reached.
Okay, so it's not really mandatory to pay then
No, absolutely no. Even if let's say there is something which I agree, I can still choose that I would pay it subsequently after taking necessary consultation. But I cannot be forced to make payment then and there. It's up to me how do I tackle the situation at that point of time.
Let's say an issue which is also raised during proceedings was covered under department audit. Now the department has come for inspection on the same issue. Can they still proceed with the investigation or search?
So Shefali, again, we have multiplicity of authorities under GST. We have CGST department, then I have SGST, then I have audit commissionerates, then I have investigating agencies in form of anti-evasion at both CGST, SGST. Then I have an absolute different investigating arm of CGST in form of DGJI. So in totality, if you look at it, there are 7-8 different tax officers who can actually have a jurisdiction over me. Okay, they can ask question to me. At that point of time, what happens is the source of data which is available. In majority of the cases, especially in the technological times we are there, the source of data with these government officers is mostly same. And that appears on their system. So as you ask the question that if I am an investigating officer and I am coming to a premise and I am saying that you are supposed to answer this question to me, or this is that transaction on which you have not paid tax, then what has happened before that with other investigating agency, other audit authority, whether that was that culminated into a document or an order or a paper or an audit report is most important. If that issue, I cannot just say that because my audit was done for the previous period, now investigating agency cannot step into my premise or they cannot ask the question. They can ask the question, they can come to my premise. But if let's say some issue has already been dealt by another officer, they have issued a notice or they've issued an order or they've issued a closure report, then I can give it to the investigating agency, and now we have a Supreme Court judgment in case of armored security where they have said that then in that case there is an immunity available to a taxpayer and investigating agency cannot proceed in that particular regard.
Okay, this is my last question, but it is very important. Under what circumstances can taxpayer be arrested?
There are very clear provisions for this. There are two types of offences for which there are arrest provisions which are mentioned in this act. There is a specific section 132. Offences which are in a quantum more than 5 crore rupees of tax is involved. Then and they relate to fake invoicing, or there is a sale without invoice, or claim of a fake input tax credit. These are those matters where an arrest can be done on the basis of a permission of a commissioner, not joint commissioner, permission of a commissioner, and there the GST officer has to basically issue an arrest warrant then and there only. We call them cognizable and non-bailable offences. Beyond this, even if let's say there are any other offence which I've done where the amount is less than 5 crore rupees, which can be related to all of those things or wrong refunds and anything, then in those cases, those offences are not cognizable and non-bailable, meaning thereby, then for issuing a search warrant or arrest warrant against me, the tax officer has to go to a magistrate, take a search warrant from him, and then on the basis of it, they can only arrest me. So that thread which is there during the course of search, where sometimes to have that deposition of a tax payment, sometimes it is being said that I will arrest you or I can arrest you.
Right.
Taxpayer has to understand there has to be an admission first of all on the taxpayer side of an offence where tax involvement is more than 5 crore rupees, and it should be related to all these 3-4 things.
Okay.
A classification dispute cannot be a reason where somebody can be arrested.
Oh, right.
Interpretation issue cannot be something on which there can be an arrest. So we have to understand whether it is just a mere threat, or is there really a provision in the law which can actually force or a situation where a taxpayer can be arrested. Arrest is not that easy.
I think the key takeaway is when the department has several powers, the taxpayers also have certain rights which they should be aware of. So with this podcast, I think it was helpful for our listeners to understand what search and inspection proceedings are and what rights as a taxpayers we have. Thank you, sir, for sharing these insights. For more GST related content, you can subscribe to our channel.